In this video, we'll be doing a blind contour drawing. You'll need a pencil. Any pencil will do. I'm using a General's 3B, a paper plate, and your drawing board with paper clipped on. You'll also need an object to draw. It's best to use an actual object and not a photograph or something for this particular project. I'm using this water pitcher here, but anything that you have around the house will work as long as it has an interesting outline. You want to look for bumps, curves, changes in the shape, whatever the outside or silhouette shape of that is going to be that you'll find interesting to draw. A hat would work great, binoculars, a pitcher, any kind of thing that has some interesting shape to it. And it just depends on how complicated and how challenging you want it to be, how much time you want to take with this. You could start with something much more simple and then try something a little more difficult if you want a challenge. So the first thing is to know, what is a contour drawing? Contour is just the outside lines or outside shape of an object. So we want to be able to follow along very slowly along just the outside, and I'm not going to pay attention to anything that happens more inside to like this line or something. I'm not going to draw. I would just draw whatever I see on the outside lines of my object. Your paper plate, you can punch a hole right in the middle of it. You can do this with your pencil, it's very easy. Pop right through. You're going to set your pencil through it and rest the paper plate on your hand, because this is a blind contour drawing, which means we're not going to look at the paper at all until we're done with the drawing. This is a practice that is going to help us be very careful to observe and really look at the object and not just get lost in thinking about like, oh, I know what that looks like, and just draw it here, because sometimes our mind doesn't quite remember it right. So we have to really build that observational skill and attention to detail very carefully. And this project really helps you do that. So we'll get started with it. So you can set up your object in front of you, just at eye level, however you think it will be interesting, right in front. And you can set up your paper and look to get it ready so that you know that you have your pencil on the paper, and then you'll begin. And you won't get to look. This blocks our view so we can't accidentally look. I like to use the drawing board, and so it can be up at an angle. It's not as important for this as it is for other styles of drawing, but it does help it become more comfortable for your hand, and you don't have to lean over the table. So you kind of make sure that you're starting in the good spot, and you're going to follow along very, very slowly. I'm actually going to turn my paper away. Very slowly along, find one point to start, and my eyes are just going to follow along on whatever that outside line is. The key to this too is to go very, very slowly. Really look at that curve, and you're just going to stare at your object. And because it doesn't matter if you look at your paper, it's not going to help because you can't see anything. You want to go very slowly. Pretend like you're like a little tiny bug crawling along, little ant or ladybug along the outside surface as you go. And you want to take little tiny steps along with that, and your pencil should go at that same speed. So your eyes are going to go very, very slow, very slow. This helps us really notice any kind of bump and curve and detail. I started at this spout end, and I'm just now to the handle end. So that'll give you an idea of how slowly I'm going. I want to really notice that this isn't just a smooth line from here to here. There's a little bit of a decoration on there. So I want to get that in. Try and get every little curve, follow it along as best as I can. This part's fairly simple. It's just going to go on a curve like that, but I still want to go slow. I want to try and make sure that my pencil is following the same speed as my eyes, and that I can really take time to go along as if it was, again, a little tiny bug just inching along. So I'm down at the base part of the handle now, curving around. So you can see that the more complex outside edge of an object, the more difficult and time-consuming this project would be. You might have a very complicated internal part of an object, but since we're only drawing the outside or silhouette, it doesn't matter how complicated the inside is as long as the outside is very simple. A guitar or a musical instrument would be very interesting to do. Again, very slow, a lot of observation, looking very carefully. One of the things that this helps do is, again, it helps you really observe the object. So often when students are learning to draw, they forget to look at the object as much as they should, and they concentrate so much on their paper wanting to get everything just right that they stop looking at the thing that they're drawing, and that's where the mistakes can come in. So we want to make sure to be very careful to observe. When you are drawing and sketching in a regular mode, where you can look at your paper, you also want to be looking at your object about half of the time. You don't want to be looking at your paper most of the time. You want to look at your object just as much as you are looking at your drawing. Doing the blind contour drawing will help you get used to this, and that you can kind of be used to holding that image in your mind, glancing at your paper, glancing back and forth. So I'm just now coming around the far side curve. These are really fun to do in a group because then you can compare each other's blind contour drawings, and they're very funny, as you can imagine. All right, I got to the end. You ready? It's very silly. So there's the drawing, and you can see that the lines don't even match up, but I have every little bump and detail. It isn't a perfect drawing. This isn't one that I can really display or sell or anything like that, win an award at the fair or anything like that. But I have paid a lot of attention to details and maybe picked up some details and noticed things that I wouldn't if I was just trying to draw a good sketch of it. So then I can do a drawing of this object with looking at my paper, and I have all kinds of details I've already picked out and noticed, and I know that they need to go in certain places, and I know I need to add those to it. But doing this blind contour drawing really helps you look at those details and look at the object that you're looking at and train you to look there at your object just as much or more than at your paper.